Being recorded.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon and welcome to the second in this month's series of webinars. The Lutheran Church Missouri Synod School of Ministries, in cooperation with Concordia University of Wisconsin School of Continuing and Distance Education, has been conducting monthly National Lutheran School Accreditation Best Practice webinars. These webinars provide great opportunity for staff development. Today's webinar is being presented by Redeemer Lutheran School, Redwood City, California. They will be sharing their second of their three best practices today. Their practice today is how to support and embrace students of all abilities. This is the second of their best practice webinars for this month. And these feature a unique and transformational practices that are underway in our Lutheran schools. Reminder that all of these and the best practices are available to watch later on the Lutheran portal. Today's topic is how to support and embrace children of all abilities. As children of God, we are beautifully created, imperfect beings. Every classroom is filled with students who learn in their own individual and unique ways. Today we will talk about how a small school can support students with a variety of learning needs while supporting the workload of the classroom teacher. If you would please join me in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, in this time of Lent, we remember the sacrifice that you gave to us. We thank you for all of the blessings that we have received. We ask that you be with our presenters today, that they may share their best practices of their school. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to start with just the webinar by kind of painting a picture of how we got to where we are in our vision of teaching the students of all abilities. My name is Michelle Graham, and I am the Vice Principal here at Redeemer in charge of curriculum and instruction underneath Mike Mancini, and our third member of our group that helps with all of our WASC accreditation and presented last week was Melissa Davis. She's not joining us today because she's in parent-teacher conferences, so she'll be back with us next week. So a picture of Redeemer. Redeemer from the beginning was a small school. It served around 50% congregational members. The teachers found that they had many differing needs in their classrooms. And as our school grew from 109 students to nearly full capacity at 212, the teachers found it more and more difficult to meet the increasing needs of our students. And as many of you, I'm sure, here have encountered, there seem to be more and more students that are identified with specific challenges like ADHD, auditory processing difficulties, executive functioning struggles, etc. And over the time and over the years, we've worked to try to embrace those kids. So Redeemer is located in Redwood City, California. We're a small school. We're only K-8. We do not have a pre-K. And currently we're at 212 students. We have 2 full-time administrators, Mike and myself, and then an office assistant as well, and 11 full-time teachers. We have 3 part-time teachers and 5 aides. One of our full-time teachers actually is an RSP teacher as well. So many of you know our principal, Mike Mancini, but what you may not know about him is that he actually was one of those struggling students way back then as a child. And when he took over as our principal, he began to surround himself with teachers who would go that extra mile for struggling students. He had a vision that Redeemer would become a school where all students who wish to know Christ, regardless of their struggles, would be given the opportunity to learn at Redeemer. With that vision, Mike has grown the student population, as I mentioned, from 109 to 212, added a curriculum and instruction vice principal position, which is my position currently, hired an RSP teacher, and grown our staff to be able to support all of these students, high and low. But with this vision came a lot of challenges, as you can well imagine, and probably experience yourself. From our truly gifted students to those whose parents just think they're gifted, and from our high achievers to those that have learning difficulties, from our typical kids to those who behaviorally and have behavioral and social difficulties. Meeting the needs of all these unique beings that God has created creates tremendous challenges for us as educators. In Jeremiah 29:11, we are reminded that God has amazing plans for all his children, and we are called to help these kiddos, whether tiny or large, to all be what they can. So how do we do it? Well, we've created a culture here where students, parents, and staff that know that in order to educate all students, equity or fairness isn't what's best for all students, but rather equality, where everyone's given equal opportunities and accessibility is equal. They all are given the access to all of the information. So now down to the nitty-gritty, or the process at Redeemer. Anytime a teacher has a concern about a student here, whether the student is struggling academically, behaving poorly, or excelling, and the teacher struggling to challenge that student, teacher fills out what we call an SST form. Our SST stands for Student Study Team. It's a recommendation form, and on this form, the teacher documents his or her concerns, strategies that they've already tried, ideas that they may have and need some feedback on. Some of the ideas that they may have already tried, or things that we ask them to try in advance of having this meeting, is providing audio tapes for students who have auditory processing disorders, or allowing students to type instead of handwrite papers if they have fine motor difficulties, being given extra copies of texts if they need them, extended time on tests, tests that are read aloud instead of having to read it on their own, modified seating, modified behavior programs, small group instruction, things like this. We ask these teachers to try most of these bag of tricks ahead of time to make sure that things that they can provide in the classroom are being tried before we actually have a team meeting. Once the teachers turn the paper in, then the teacher and myself meet to discuss challenges and strategies for the classroom. Oftentimes just bouncing strategies and ideas off of another person is all that's really needed. We find that the needs of the individual often can be handled within the classroom, as I mentioned, with no other steps. However, when this isn't the case, the next step in our process is actually to schedule the SST meeting. The SST meeting, or the SST team, is comprised of myself, the RFP teacher, the classroom teacher, the parents, and a representative from any applicable outside agencies that's working with that student. For example, a tutor or a therapist, if the parents are interested in having them attend. During these meetings, we discuss the student's strengths and challenges and strategies for both home and school to implement to help this child succeed. We are very clear to make sure that there is buy-in from all parties and that there's consistency between home and school to make sure that the child's students are being met across the board. I'll get into the types of strategies we use later, but for the sake of staying with the process, our final step is the follow-through that we ensure with this process. We have fall and spring meetings that we have with the parents, and we have additional SST meetings each fall and spring. And the purpose of that is to make sure that the plan that we have for that kiddo is up to date and ready to transition to the next year if it's spring into the fall. And in the fall, we update if we need to as they start into a new school year and a new grade level. Additionally, we meet with the teachers over the summer, and each one meets with myself and the previous teacher, and we discuss all the kids and what their accommodations may be, what strategies work with them, what their needs are, so that each teacher is abreast of the students that are coming in and what strategies already work, so that it's a more seamless transition. Throughout the year, if the parents or the teachers at any point feel they need to meet to revise the plan, the student's plan, then they call and schedule a meeting and we reconvene. So some students will have meetings up to 4 or 5 times a year in order to kind of tweak things and get them organized. But Others will simply meet once in the fall and once in the spring. Here's kind of a visual of our SST process that's a little bit easier to see. Step one, again, the teacher is completing a student referral form. Then once the referral form is received, then there's a referral team meeting to determine the action that will happen from there. Again, sometimes we only need support in the classroom, and we help with the ideas that the teacher can take back to the classroom. And at other times, it needs to go to a formal SST where we meet with the whole group. And from that SST, there are usually 3 courses of action. Either that student will receive RSP support. We could just help continue to modify things in the classroom for them at a higher level than what the teacher's been providing. Or we do occasionally refer to outside agencies, which I'll discuss at another point. So in most cases, this is lovely for our students. It's the ones with the easier challenges to deal with. This whole system works really well. Those with mild ADD, auditory processing difficulties, high-functioning autism, et cetera, those ones are ones we often are able to just handle it at our level at the school. Ones with specific learning disabilities that our RSP teacher can work with as well. But there are times where we have more extreme cases, times where we've accepted a student early on in kindergarten, and over time we realize that there are some higher level needs than what our staff is capable of handling or trained to handle. And in that case, we have developed a great deal of partnerships, or a number of partnerships out there in the community to help us through this. We've been blessed with amazing partnerships that really benefit our students, such as our local school district. One of the interesting things we've done is created a relationship with them, with the local school district and the county office. A representative from our school, in this case it's myself at this point, attends a yearly SELPA meeting to ensure that we are aligned with newer special ed policies for our district. Additionally, we have developed a strong relationship with the local elementary and high school public districts, so we're able to easily have students tested when our SST determines that a diagnosis would be beneficial, or to transition a student who will need special ed support when they move into high school. This relationship with the people at the district has helped as well, because they, in many cases, are willing to have trainings with us and things like that. One of the other partnerships we formed with an outside agency is with Developmental Pathways for Kids, Morrissey Compton, and then we also work with therapists and outside tutors that come on campus. We give specific access to services to our students on site, which is very helpful to the families. In exchange for use of facilities, our students are eligible for initial screenings and psychoed evals and such at reduced costs. Additionally, these agencies are often offer us free trainings for our staff and for parents.
This is Trip Rogers. Did we lose her? Hello?
Hey, Chip, we didn't lose her. We just lost her voice connection.
Oh, okay.
So waiting for her to dial back in, it looks like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I heard my phone say you're no longer muted. I went, okay, I guess I got to say something.
I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounded like her phone went out on her or something.
Sorry, guys. Somehow I lost everyone.
Oh, Oh, well, we're glad you're back.
Yeah, not sure what happened to our phone system there, but we're back. So.
I think you did it on purpose.
All right, so we're back to our tiered support system.
Okay, thank you.
Tiered 1 is embedded support within the classroom and generally makes up about 80% of our students. Basically, it's good for all students. It's the things we do in the classrooms that are good for learning and helping students that have, different learning needs, even with your typical learner. Of executive functioning disorder, auditory processing, kids that if you just teach in a specific manner, they're able to be reached. Our tier 2 level support is our RSP support. That usually is about 10% of our students or less, and that includes push-ins to help in the classroom, pull-out, small group, etc. And then our tier 3 is another typically 10% of our students, and those are ones who need outside support. These are students whose needs are beyond what we can provide for, but they're students who do not take away from the learning of others. So we make sure that all students' needs are met, even with these higher level needs students. Their support classes are often scheduled during the school day when they do not interfere with their core main classes, so that they're not having to do all the extra support that they need after school when they're tired. So as you can imagine, this 80%, 10%, 10% kind of deal doesn't always work out. That's kind of what we shoot for. We're always watching as we accept new students to make sure we're not overloading teachers in our system as we begin to accept kids. We try to keep the individual classes at 20% or lower in terms of the high needs, so that the teacher's able to really meet the needs of all the kids. So here's another look at our support structure with some more detail involved in what we offer at that level. Our tier 1 support, again, is embedded within the classroom. And those accommodations, rather than pulling out, we try to offer these things within all classrooms so that they're continuing with their learning. Types of accommodations that we have available for students are not limited to, but just a small list of them are unlimited testing times. We believe that it's important to give kids plenty of time to explain what they know and not limit the amount of time they need to do it in. We give sensory breaks for kiddos, things where they're able to get up and stretch when they need to. Some of our kids actually spend most of their class standing as they're learning or writing. We have fidget toys, which I'm sure a lot of people do, things that they can squeeze and stretch. We have a few kids on campus who have oral fixation issues, and those kids, we have things we stick on the ends of their pens and pencils. We actually buy and sanitize tubing that goes with fish tanks, and it's real thick tubing for fish tanks and aquatics. And we stick them on the top of their pens and pencils so they have things to chew on during the day, which helps to keep them focused. Different strategies for those kind of things. Modified behavior plans are obviously when the current system isn't working in the classroom. We use, positive reinforcement, sticker charts for the little ones, things like that. We offer extra organizational support for kids that need it, that are struggling with executive functioning. We have a planner program where they're able to have their homework planners signed in the afternoon to ensure that they are truly knowing what they're responsible to do for the evening for homework, and have a system where the parents sign it as well. We allow students to audio tape reviews for tests if they have auditory processing difficulties, so that they can review things. Also, our kids with fine motor issues, we allow that as well, so that they can have access to review if they're not able to take notes. And we do small group pull-out when necessary for reteaching and revisiting. So those are the embedded classroom supports, and just an example of some of them. Our next level of support, again, was the Tier 2, and that's students who need a little more support than those who are just within the classroom. That is on-site support. As I mentioned before, we have an RSP teacher, and she does push in for certain classes at the lower grade to assist with reading. And at the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and up, she actually does some pull-outs for kids who have been identified as needing extra support in a specific subject matter. We have a wonderful retired therapist who comes on and volunteers her time on campus, and she does a lot of our social groups and anti-bullying groups at lunchtime for kids who are struggling with anything related to social or friendship development and things like that. We also have tutors who we have developed relationships over the year who come on campus, and during the school day, certain students are able to receive tutoring and help with their classwork if they need it in different areas. So the next level of support is our Tier 3. It's outside agency support, and this is when we truly have things that we are unable to or untrained to handle on our own. So we have, for example, one-on-one aides that come on campus and work specifically with students. We currently have one in our kindergarten class right now working with a kiddo who needs extra support. We have public schools we work with, again, to write IEPs for kids. We have social groups, an outside social group that comes on campus as well. We have a partnership, actually, who's just moved off campus. She has her own building now that she's renting, but for a lowered fee, she would rent one of our rooms and ran afternoon social groups to help kids who needed some extra support, who potentially were on the autistic spectrum and needed to work through those kind of things. We also have speech and language and physical therapy and occupational therapy next door. So the specific partnerships that we've developed over the years that have added these outside agency supports are developmental pathways for kids, which actually is right next door to us. And they offer speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and they also do social groups as well. Some of our students receive services there during the school day, and additionally, they run a model where they run groups where their clients actually their services is a play group, so they're given a mission, and they have typical kids that come over as expert players and work with those students to model behavior, and they're guided through with their therapist. We have a great deal of our students who actually sign up to be players over at DPK, and they go over and work with those kids to kind of help teach. But you know, in doing so, they receive themselves the understanding of compassion and working with students with special needs. So it's an amazing partnership for our kids as well. We have developed a new partnership recently with a local outside organization called Morrissey Compton, and we invite them to use our facility to run parent meetings and educational nights, and in return they allow our parents to go at free or reduced cost to any of their parent nights. They are an educational therapy partnership, and that helps with our kids who have learning disabilities as well. We have a great deal of students who go there on their own as well as clients. Let's see. I mentioned that our relationship with our local school district has been really helpful. Because we are a private school, we obviously don't run IEPs, but if we have a student we're concerned about, we will have them tested over at the local school district. And when the IEP is written up, it's actually written up as an IEP, and then our parents do not accept services because they're not going to the actual public school, but instead it's signed on as an ISP, which is an independent service plan. That gives the district gives us access to the district for 1 to 3 hours, depending on the IEP that's written or ISP that's written each year, to talk with the district about that student. And so if we have any special questions about their transition, how to better meet their needs, suggestions for local things that are going on, we have access for a certain number of hours per kid that has an ISP over at the district, and we utilize those with the psychologists that are over there as well. We have tutors, like I mentioned, that come on campus. Those are ones that we have screened and are okay to be working on campus with our kids. And they pull out during times when the kids are not in their core subjects to help them with whatever it is that they're working on. So a note to all of these outside agencies, the parents are financing the support for these. The school is not. Redeemer puts man hours in with helping to make arrangements and create seamless programs for these kids and orchestrating all of this. But the parents are actually the ones that are financing the outside support, and even though it's happening during the school day. So that's it for our struggling learners. We, of course, have those gifted and high achievers like every school does. And, it's a struggle to be able to meet the needs of your kids that are struggling while still meeting the needs of your high achievers. So most of what we've done with our high achievers has been all embedded within our classroom. So for our math in the lower grades, K2, our math program, like most, differentiates the work that we can give to the kids. So once the teacher teaches the lesson, she can give different assignments based on ability. The students complete the same sheet, and then those who need extra support are pulled to small group to go over it again. And those who finish earlier are given the opportunity to extend the lesson and do an extra enrichment type form that's related to the concept that's being learned. The teachers also utilize Khan Academy within the classroom for free time and centers for math skills to help enrich as well in math. For 3rd through 5th, we use Khan Academy as well, and we have a couple of pull-out classes a few days a week where we pull out our higher students that need challenge, and we give them challenge work around the area of math that they're studying mathematically. For 6th through 8th students, they take a yearly placement test into our math program. Our math classes in middle school are mixed from 6th grade to 8th grade with students all in the same based on their ability and their knowledge level. And this allows us to teach at a slower pace for those who need it, and it allows us to accelerate for those who are ready for the challenge and move up into areas of geometry and such before they move out to high school. So because of this model, we're able to really meet the needs of the lower all the way up to the higher level and the gifted and high achievers. In terms of other areas, other curricular areas, we have recently begun adopting or implementing Writers' Workshop at our school. We by no means are where we need to be with this program. It is early in the adoption and the understanding of how to do it. Our teachers are receiving training. But this model of writing and teaching Writers' Workshop, by nature, the program differentiates instruction and expectations as the teacher is conferencing with students around their writing pieces and setting goals for them based on their ability. And so most of their writing and their reading pieces, because of the workshop type that we use, it works for their high achievers as well as their ones who need extra support. Now, I have cranium badges and extensions within the assignments, which I'm going to go into next and kind of give you an example of that. Cranium Club is something that's utilized with a couple of our teachers in our school, and basically what we've asked each teacher to do here is to have a system for extending the learning within their own classroom. This example is Cranium Club in 3rd grade, and for her, whenever she has bins, and each student has their own bin, and anytime they're finished with their work, they go into their bin and are working on their challenge work. This work is differentiated for the learner, and so for some it's review. For some it truly is a challenge, but this extends the learning for those who are the gifted and higher to be able to take it above and beyond where the learning has already been in the classroom for the common group. Another example of extending our learning is in our lower classes. This is our Camp Want to Learn a Lot is a theme in our our 1st grade classroom, and this was her October extension for what she gave out. This gave this, sorry, I lost my little place here. Oh, this gave an extension to an assignment they were learning on in science. Their project for that month was all around, in science, was all around plants and understanding the plant life cycle in science. And so what our teacher did here was she, and does this every month, she aligned badges. Since it's a camp, they can earn badges at their camp, similar to like a scout program. And they are able to earn a badge for every time they complete one of these extensions beyond. And this can be done at home. It can also be done in the classroom when they're finished with their work. And then all of them are extensions that are aligned with Gardner's multiple intelligences. And so it brings in music and sports and mathematics all into this topic that they're studying for the month. So one of the examples was that they were able to create, design a garden. For example, how big will your garden be mathematically? What will you put in the garden? Why will you put it in? One of them was create riddles and jokes about the plants and try them out on your classmates. Write a song about your plants and what you like about them and why plants are important. They always have an art component. Draw at least 3 types of plants. Make sure these plants look different from each other and label them. Things like that. And as they complete different ones, they are able to earn badges in their class. Back up in the middle, the 3rd through 5th level, this is an example of a writing extension. These kids were given a project where they, as a culmination of their biome study in science, they had to create an imaginary animal that had at least 5 adaptations based on a chosen biome, and that adaptation had to include at least 2 physical, 2 behavioral, and 1 of the student's choice. They actually created these creatures with anything they could find to create them, and then had to write a magazine article announcing the discovery of that critter. That was the actual in-class assignment. The extension for this, when they were able to, if they were interested in taking it further, was to then go back and write paragraphs and take it to the next level and continue to use the information that they had learned based on that. So we asked them, as the parents, or as the teachers give larger assignments in the classroom or at home, that they always have some form of an extension that they can give for those who want the extra challenge, for the parents who feel their kids need the extra challenge, and in some cases, the teacher will let them know that this is something that they expect those kids to do so that they are getting that extra challenge that they need. So in conclusion, all of us as educators struggle with meeting that range of needs in our classrooms. It would be a lot easier to have our students at Redeemer just test in and accept and make sure that they're at a certain level so we can perform only certain academic teaching and all have them at the same place. But you know, we really feel that it's inconsistent with the teachings of Jesus, and as his disciples, we need to challenge ourselves to find ways to meet the needs of all of his children. So by utilizing outside partnerships, we've been able to really meet the more extreme needs of the students, but we've also realized that over time, by making some accommodations within the classroom, it's actually good for all students. It really helps all kids learn, even when they are typical learners. The embedded support, the extended test times, organizational support, sensory breaks, those are all good for all kids, regardless of what their needs are. So I close with a cartoon that summarizes our views at Redeemer, that clearing the path for people with special needs actually clears a path for everyone. It helps all learners, and it's good for all people. Thanks. Any questions?
Well, Michelle, thank you for your presentation. You did a great job coming back even after losing the phone call there, so good job coming back. That could be a little rattling. So you did a nice job. We'll open this up for a little bit. It looks like Jim's doing some typing here, so we'll see if there's some questions that will be coming forth from people that were listening. How many students do you have in each classroom?
At our kindergarten level, we have 22, and then first grade through fifth, we have 24, and our middle school has 25 in a classroom.
And you were talking about like an 80-10-10. Do you guys, when you accept students, do you look at who are currently in the classroom and see how those students would fit in?
We sure do. We absolutely do. And we talk very carefully with the parents of the students that are coming in, students with special needs, to discuss the makeup of the class and whether we think it's going to be a good fit for their student coming in with the needs as well.
Okay. What kind of, do you do some kind of a testing? Could you refresh me on that? Do you do some kind of admissions or some kind of a testing before they come onto your campus?
We do, but the testing actually is simply, we've created a test that uses our current curriculum And we've created a test of, where do we expect our students to be using our curriculum at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year for each grade level. And really, honestly, we are simply testing to see, are they in line with where the rest of the class is? Are we noticing any, learning disabilities as they're working through their math and their writing sample? We interact with the kids and try to find out if anything's going on as well. And then we meet with the parents to interview them and find out if there's any special needs coming in. We're very, very upfront about the fact that we don't not accept kids because of special needs, but we want to make sure it's a good fit for everybody involved.
Okay. Well, I see Jim made a nice thank you there for your presentation. Or does anybody else have any other comments before we end today? If not, Redeemer Lutheran School will be up next week making their presentation to us next week. It'll be at the same time. We ask that you would join us again next week for their presentation. God's blessings to you in the season of Lent.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.